When I started as an entrepreneur, I had no idea what I was getting into. Probably a lot of you all can relate to that. I had no guide, no mentor, no advice, no nothing. Well, except there was this one gentleman who invested in businesses, kind of gave out advice, and he said that what I was trying to do would never work. So I ignored his sage advice. Looking back, I wish I had someone like me to guide me way back then. Well, I didn't, but you do. And I want to share with you 5 things I wish I had known. Welcome to the Get Business Savvy podcast. I'm George Black, and this is AJ Bishop.
So theoretically here, I have a head start on a young George because I met you at the very beginning of my entrepreneurial journey here. And
Right.
Any of our listeners as well, hopefully they're earlier on the journey than you having to accumulate all your experience and hard knocks that you did. And I'm wondering, what's the first thing you have for us?
Yeah, AJ, you definitely have a distinct advantage over me so many years ago. And you're right. A lot of this came from hard knocks, but it also came from some mentors I would develop over the years and great guidance and community and all of that. I think what I've learned that's absolutely sustaining for my whole journey is passion. Looking back, if I had known build from your passions, that would have gotten me more onto the right track. Now, I kind of stumbled into it because sort of accidentally, because financial was definitely a passion, and I sort of swerved into that right off the bat. And so that fueled my tank, but it wasn't intentional. And that's what I think everyone should do is I think you should intentionally find your passions, get them clear, what's monetizable, and start building on that.
That has to be where you start, because at the end of the day, when you're opening and running your own business, things are going to get very hard. And to sustain doing very hard things for year in and year out, you're going to have to be passionate about doing it, and you're going to have to just love doing it, and you're going to have to love that these are the problems that you get to solve on a daily basis. Because everybody thinks they have a passion to be rich, but they don't realize once you get in the day-to-day of being in a business, being the want to be rich is only going to take you so far. You have to want to do what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've had a number of conversations with young, new entrepreneurs, guys starting into it or been doing it for a couple of years, and their whole thing is, I'm going to be rich. And we talked about this last week, when you look on the internet, it's like how to get rich, right? And every single one of those conversations, they start off and they dispute me. They go, because I say, becoming rich is not a passion. And the pushback is like right in my face. But we start talking about it and we process on it. We've got other podcasts on this and we'll develop this more later. Is that they realize, oh, it's not a passion. And I will tell you this, even if it is a passion, it's not sustainable. The passions I'm talking about is loving what you're doing.
And how did you discover that out? Were you just doing something that you hated and knew you couldn't do it for much longer?
Actually, no. It was when the tough times hit that I realized if I didn't love what I was doing, I would have quit. And in fact, I hit a headwind one time and, we lost revenue, things were down. I had a small team and it was like really tough. And I was like, but I love what I'm doing. And I stuck it out. And it led to some incredible successes on the other side, but it was tough going. And had it not been for my passion, I think I would have quit.
Because if you were just passionate about money, you would have said, oh, business is dried up with this one. I'll go to the next one. I'm not going to do all the tough work to make this one right. I don't love to do this anyways.
Right. What else can I go make money at if that's my passion? And so that leads to the second thing that I've learned over the years, and that's you've got to have direction. And by direction, I mean, it's the old question we've been talking all in January about where are you headed? But why is that so important? It's because that's your purpose. So direction equals purpose. And guys, you don't have to be super crystal clear and map out the next 30 years with this. So when I first started out, I had just been fired from the family business. And And so this was my direction. Well, if I'm leading 2 or 3 companies at a time, the chances of them all firing me at the same time is pretty low. So um, that's what I endeavored to start doing. That was the beginning of direction. Okay. Now, that wasn't long-term sustainable, but it gave me the purpose I needed for what I was doing and launched me.
That's interesting that you say that, because I relate to it in how direction can sometimes just start off very vague and you just know like north, south, east, or west. I'm
Right.
going that way. Like how I started with my entrepreneurial endeavor was I need an internship so I could stay in the city, so I could afford to stay away from my parents in the city I went to school in. And that turned into, hey, there's this business opportunity with a competition. And I was like, all right, I'm an entrepreneur now. And that's how that direction for this summer will work. And then once I got into entrepreneurship, it was, I have a shoulder rehabilitation device now. I want to sell this to everybody. And my direction was to just sell it to everybody. And then I met George, and he asked me, "What's your direction?" I told him it's to sell it to everybody, and he clearly tells me that's not a direction. That's and then we began to work at changing that over time to really transforming the shoulder rehab industry, and noticing problems we were encountering along the way and how we wanted to address those with our business. So it's almost like the initial direction just presents itself to you. You start walking that way, and then it becomes clearer and clearer where you're going and what you ultimately want to do and what that direction really is.
Yes. And, that reminds me. So a couple weeks ago, we interviewed Garrett Takash, who's a serial entrepreneur, and something from my book really inspired him. And it's this quote where I don't want to be a part of another person's vision. I want to chart my own course. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's the initial direction. And that fuels everything.
Yeah, I think there's just something in the spirit of an entrepreneur where it's just you want to be independent and you want to make your own way. Because you see all the problems with the way things are currently done, and you think that you can do them in your own way and in a unique way, and you can do it in a better way.
And Garrett actually details that out, guys. So I think you'll really enjoy that story. But that actually leads to the third thing I've learned. And it's like, okay, so as entrepreneurs, how do you want to start? Do you want to start going like 20 miles an hour, like in a school zone? Or do you want to be like on a Texas highway going 85 miles an hour, right? We want to be going as, boy, go fast, kind of like Ricky Bobby. Okay. So here's the thing I learned. Don't. You can't. It won't work. You need to build incrementally over time. So why? You got to gain experience, and you will get better. All right. So the thing is, really, it's about, here's the way I would sum it up. Be patient. Just be patient. And that's actually being kind to yourself. We have these huge expectations of ourselves, and we have very little experience.
It's almost like an entrepreneur demands twice out of themselves what they would reasonably demand out of any other employee. Just because it's yourself, I like how you put that. You have to be kind to yourself still as an entrepreneur, even though you're your own boss. It doesn't mean your boss has to be mean to you.
So there's another reason to take it incrementally. Be patient with yourself. You've got to build experience. If you're starting out, the chances are you don't have the same experience at it that you will have in 5-10 years, maybe. Okay. Malcolm Gladwell talks about this in his book, Outliers, and he calls 10,000 hours as the magic number for greatness. And that would be 5 years working 40 hours a week in the expertise. So whether it's, I don't know, learning a musical instrument, becoming a great leader, becoming the best auto repair shop or construction or manufacturer, whatever that is for you, it's going to take a while.
Yeah, and I actually read that book, and he writes in it, to be considered elite and truly experienced within a certain craft, you must practice it for 10,000 hours. And he brings out the Beatles with this, where you might think they were just musically gifted, but they actually practiced for well over 10,000 hours, doing a ton of tours in Europe, just practicing at small bars, trying to get people's attention. And that's how they got such a stage presence. So once they got launched into the American scene, they were ready to be rock stars because they practiced it for so long before then. And that's the exact same thing with running your business, knowing the ins and outs of your industry, knowing the ins and outs of your particular company and your business cycle. It's probably going to take you at least, based on your hours of working 40 hours a week, that's going to take you about 5 years to really be an expert in your business and just know what everything is, because you've lived the experience over and over again. And that's just, I feel like that's just part of being a human, is your brain needs to experience it multiple times before you can truly know the ins and outs of something.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating concept. And I was thinking about it in terms of literally all the things I've gotten good at that I wanted to get good at. And ironically, the first thing wasn't even, I thought it was a ministry kind of thing I got involved in. It was working with people. And I became, I mean, talking well over 10,000 hours in my 20s working with people. And that has served me so well through business. I had no idea. And then I would develop the financial experience, strategic, that sort of thing. So all these areas of expertise. So you're not limited to just becoming one thing. You can start piling on these expertises. And so AJ can relate to this. So a few years ago, actually a couple of years ago, I endeavored on YouTube, and it was during the pandemic. I guess that was 3 years ago now. And so I did like a video a day kind of a thing. It was like to just crank the hours way up. and it was they're still out there on this channel, but I'd rather you not watch them. But anyhow, this is good content, but not real great delivery or filming and blah blah. But it's just about getting better and better. So we started this podcast, I guess now 68 episodes ago, and I've had people tell us we're getting better, which is very positive. Are we where we will be after 10,000 hours? I sure hope not. I'm hoping we're going to be really good in 10,000 hours, but we're piling up the time, and that's making us better. And so we just have to be patient, be kind to ourselves, and don't be too critical. And I've learned something. This is something amazing. I've learned this in doing YouTube, and my tendency is to go back and make everything just right. In the YouTube world, it's not that way. It's like, just take what you've learned and make the next one better. Don't try to go fix the other stuff. So that's why you can still see my original old content, because hopefully the content we're producing this year will be better than the year before.
And I know me personally, when I stumble across somebody's YouTube channel, I'll actually scroll to the beginning and just see what it looked like at the beginning and how they've developed. So
right.
Hopefully people see that and see that we're growing as well.
So another thing I've learned that just ties right into this, just be patient with yourself, is you've got to begin winning. And wins are more important than the size of the win, because the wins build confidence. So I used to lead a sales team, and I noticed a couple of different mentalities on the team. The most successful people sold a lot of stuff to a lot of people. But then I had this other mentality, and they were usually on the bottom, and they were looking for that big, we used to call it the elephant, that big win, that big kill, get that big sale, that person who's going to spend a lot of money. They never, they would, they'd pop a month every once in a while, but the consistently month over month, year over year, top sales people had lots of wins. They also had a winning attitude.
But George, how would it feel good to just be winning little things at a time? Couldn't that start to feel like you're not winning at all? Like, to me, it feels like, especially as an entrepreneur, and you're looking to do great things, it feels like you need big wins to get to big your big next levels, as we've talked about.
So AJ, I hate to bring up another football example, but this one's just too perfect. So Kalen DeBoer, who just became Nick Saban's replacement at Alabama, head coach, in like somewhere like 2005, he becomes the head coach of like Sioux Falls, North Dakota, in somewhere like that. I mean, it's like you've never heard of these places. But he had like his winning record was unbelievable, like just a few games lost and like 60 some odd wins or something like that. And this guy has won everywhere he's gone. And he's been like at Fresno State and coordinator this and coordinator that. And then he ends up at Washington. 2 seasons, wins, and is in the national playoff. And now, 19 years later, he's head coach of the premier program in the country. He had tons of tiny little wins. Guys, I think having a winning mentality is way more important than the size of the wins.
So is this more about winning, or is this more about a mentality to have as an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. It's really kind of both, because winning builds confidence. And I mean, honestly, you can look at teams that never win or they win a few big ones, but they're not the top teams. There's a mentality to winners. I just think that it's more important to get the feeling of what is it like to win and celebrate those things. It builds confidence. And the more confidence you have, you will grow as an entrepreneur. And those wins are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, just like Kalen DeBoer. And he ends up winning his conference. He ends up going to the national playoff. I mean, it builds on itself. And you just start winning bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you're focused on the big first, I don't think you're going to win nearly as much, or maybe not even at all. So the fifth thing I wish I had known when I started may surprise you. It's find a community. Oh my gosh, this is huge. Huge, huge, huge. Most entrepreneurs, most leaders feel alone. And in a lot of cases solopreneurs, and we've talked a little bit about this. You need to be in a community of entrepreneurs, other people who get it. You will sense a power that I've got support. I've got people who encourage me. I got people who get my story.
Yeah. And if you ask any entrepreneur who's been going at their business for any period of time for seriously at all, I feel like most of them would talk about community. Like we just talked to Garrett 2 weeks ago, and that was one of his big messages was
Right.
You're not alone. And how once he actually started going into the community and letting his ego break down a little bit, he realized, oh, the community can help me, and there's so much to learn from other people. And I had the exact same experience where once I put away the idea that I'm going to be a lone ranger and I'm going to be an entrepreneur to take the world by storm, once you put that away and you realize, oh, there's a community of people out here who have had similar experiences or have had greater experiences than me that are willing to help me. And you're foolish if you don't ask them, because now you're just asking to make your own mistakes over and over again, when you could be learning from other people's mistakes and other people's experience as well, and sharing that with them, creating reciprocity and an entrepreneurial community that sustains itself.
Right. And that's key, the reciprocity, because to know you're in a good community, here's how it will work. I guarantee you, a good community will work this way. There's going to be some times when you're down and you're just in a bad place, and the community or others in the community, well, they're in a good place. They're up. Okay. So the people who are up help the people who are down. Then time goes on and it changes. You're up, they're down. And so you can help them. And the key is that everybody understands and knows each other's stories. They know what's going on in their businesses. And so, they can share how they've overcome obstacles, and that can encourage you and give you some ideas. But this is huge. You get, especially, and another thing about a good community is you set egos aside so that you can celebrate everybody's wins. And I'm doing this right now in a YouTube mastermind that I'm leading, but I'm also a member of it. And we celebrate the person who just got 100,000 subscribers. Well, I'm trying to break 100. Okay. So please subscribe. Help us break 100. Okay. But I'm thrilled he got 100,000. That's awesome. He's also been doing it 10 years or 15 years. Okay. So, in other words, great communities celebrate each other, they support each other.
And I think the celebration's a huge part of it, because how else are you going to get that feeling of winning and confidence unless you're sharing it with somebody else, right? So that's a part of it that you're tying to. But also in reciprocity, it's also about knowledge sharing. If you know what's going on with a few different people's businesses, now you're getting a better idea of the general business environment. You're getting a better idea of business in your area and other things that you might need to look out for. And you just sharing your experience helps other entrepreneurs to see things that they might need to look out for. So not only are you creating a culture of celebrating and a culture of uplifting people when they're down, but you're also just increasing your base of knowledge by as many fold as your community is big, which is a huge part for entrepreneurs. And being a CEO is mostly about navigating through the knowledge environment, basically.
There's one more thing about community, and it's a dirty little secret. They are just flat out hard to find. And one of the things I've endeavored to do is reach many and not just lead companies one-on-one. To that end, this year in 2024, we're launching guided masterminds. And that's a community. It's going to be a community of a dozen people or so, where not only can everyone interact with each other, but we'll have guided sessions every month where you'll bring your issues, that sort of thing. I'll be guiding them personally and leading into growing, profitable, and sustainably growing companies. So to do that, or to find out about that, we're offering a free webinar. Just click the link below. Would love for you to come. It's absolutely free. You bring any business question you have, you'll throw it in the chat. We'll have a great time. So check it out. I think this could be a huge, huge thing for everyone who wants to take their business to their next level in 2024. Plus, check out Garrett's interview we were talking about in this podcast and last week's video on business advice. I know you're going to love them. And until next time, may you live truly free.